Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy Dupuy. I have a PhD in learning disabilities. I do assessment, advocacy, and a little bit of an intervention. I'm also an adult with dyslexia and dysgraphia.
Hi, my name is Kim Sharman. I work with kids with dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, etc. And I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm
Been doing it for more than 15 years, but professionally for 15 years.
true.
Yeah. Why have you been doing it for more than 15 years? Why do I bring that up? Because I mean, it's essentially the focus of today's
Well,
conversation.
true. I have the perspective of being a parent of a child who struggled with learning issues, and I also now am a remediation specialist, and I know what challenges you face as parents, and I know how to support and teach kids how to advocate for themselves, and I coach parents to do that too, and that's
So,
what we do.
so you were really clear as to what you wanted to do today, so explain what your thoughts were and why, as and why we're putting this video together.
Whenever the first day of school approached, I would get extremely nervous because I knew that I was going to be faced, even though we had an IEP, I was still going to be faced with my child having to struggle with advocating for herself on her special accommodations that she needed in class. So I wanted the teachers to know in advance, because oftentimes the teachers don't get information from your IEP meetings that you had. So I would type up something for the teachers of how my child works best in the classroom. And that was very helpful. And then I also had that information as to accommodations in my child's notebook so she could have it there.
So, one of the things we talk extensively about and often have conversations with the school about in a way that they're like, uh, they are befuddled by the fact that we're having this conversation. And we say, look, asking this child to ask for their accommodations is not realistic. Like, yes, we want to train them to do that, but it's a learned skill set and you're not going to have it tomorrow. Like, just because I hand you an accommodation sheet and say, here's your accommodations, doesn't mean that third, fourth, eighth graders suddenly going to know how to go up and ask for accommodations. And oh, by the way, it is super intimidating to walk up to a teacher and say, hey, you're doing this wrong, right? Like, that's not the way I work. This is what you have to do. And most little kids, or even middle school kids who are not technically little kids anymore, become very intimidated by this and don't do it. And then the school's reaction is, well, you didn't use it, so now you lose it.
Yeah.
So what we've done is I've pulled up a document that I've prepared, and this will be on the Explaining Dyslexia website, where we're trying to put all of the documents. It's not perfect yet, but it'll be there. This was kind of a massive list of accommodations that I threw together that I often use as a handout in my presentations that I do for parents, teachers, schools, whatever. And so I just threw together a huge list of various accommodations, kind of broken down by area. This is not an exhaustive list, but it gives you a springboard for beginning to think about the kinds of things your child might need based on areas, right? So, like, hey, my kid's got a problem with attention, or hey, my kid has a specific learning disability in written language. What does that look like? Otherwise known as dysgraphia for some people, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the list. So that'll be available to people and they can kind of go through and pick different accommodations out or have ideas of different accommodations. Kim, what are your favorite accommodations? Like, if we glance down this.
Okay. The goal is these kids have anxiety a lot of times because of these, as an offshoot, because of some of these struggles. So the first most important thing is for a kid who has dysgraphia, difficulty with writing, they can't take notes. Public schools don't allow you to record the lectures. However, a student may be by the teacher given notes every single day on that class. Any class where English is spoken, okay? Math class, history,
Or
science,
Spanish or any other foreign language class that you're
any
in.
and then a lot of schools will say, well, we don't really need we don't take notes in class. Well, if the teacher is speaking English, kids are writing words down on paper to take notes. Math formulas, these accommodate, that's one of my biggest ones, because oftentimes dysgraphia is misunderstood, and these accommodations make all the difference in the world for your child to give them hope and to be successful. So that is a very important one. The class
Your favorite is note taking.
My favorite is note taking. Second is audiobooks. Through Learning Ally, every textbook is available in the universe.
Or Bookshare.
Or Bookshare. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's the same thing. But each book is available for children to listen to. Most schools will have, or many schools will have, a subscription to these, and you can find out the ISBN number on the textbook, and the student can listen to the chapter and read it.
And we'll do a whole video in the future on how to use audiobooks. Okay. We've already got note taker in written language. We've got formula sheet in math, right?
How about the time tests of Mad Minutes for math, especially in elementary school, which is absolutely devastating for students with dysgraphia and dyslexia who can't hold the picture of the formula in their mind.
Okay. In homework, some of my favorite are identifying the most important problems to work, and setting a time limit on how long homework should actually take. So teachers will often, they get into creep, meaning, oh, I'll just add one more little problem here, or oh, I'll add another one there. And kids will bring in the homework complete. So they'll assume it's completed in a reasonable period of time, when in fact, many kids are working much longer than they ever anticipated. So really going in and saying, here's where you should start, and here's how long this should take you. And then have the kid write down, this is where I got in that period of time. I spent 30 minutes on this and I got 5 problems done, right? So the teacher saying, here's really what I want you to get out of this, and let me identify the ones that get you to that concept the fastest. One of my favorite books in my office is The Case Against Homework, because there's a lot of homework out there that's not actually beneficial. Okay. How about in test taking? What are favorite accommodations?
A quiet room and untimed testing for a student who has difficulty with reading, writing, having someone read the test to the student. Oh, typing your answers or dictating some of your answers. I know the schools want to teach kids how to write a paragraph, but sometimes you can write a paragraph, but then the next questions could be answered with bullet points as opposed to huge long sentences.
Okay. One of my favorites is having kids have, I call it a get out of jail free card, but a card so that they have a permanent pass for their anxiety, that if something has thrown them off, they can flash their pass. They have to go to a designated location, so they can't just, go sit on the playground. And then when they're there, they have to be engaging in anxiety reducing behaviors, like strategies they've been taught, which can be super helpful. Then we've got a whole list of technology, some recommendations for kids who have difficulty with focus, and then test taking. Now, here's this giant list of accommodations, and you've got to sit down and think about it. And I have parents all the time say, how do you know which accommodations to use? And we'll do a whole other thing on that. But now, so you've gone in and you've written your 504 plan, or you've written your IEP, and it's got these accommodations. The next thing that we suggest that you do to be ready for the beginning of school is to take that list of accommodations, bullet point it, right? Make them really clear, fast, easy read bullets, and put that on a page that is not white, something that looks slightly different. It could be blue, it could be yellow, it could be pink. Pink may be a little obvious, but you get the idea, that you get a different colored page, you put the accommodations on the front side, and on the back side, I like to put, and this is an example of different ways you could put it together, how to ask for your accommodations. Now, you could also do that on the front if you don't have a ton of accommodations. But having that list there and saying, look, I'm on an IEP or I'm on a Section 504 plan, so that the kid can actually walk up to the teacher and just point to it. Like they can literally bring their binder up, laminated, 3-hole punched in the front of the binder, and say, and point to it. And then the teacher can read it and not out the student by making a big deal out of it. Right. And the student has an easy way to prompt the teacher and make it super easy to ask, where they're not actually having to ask, they're asking the teacher to read.
So remember, the stress on them from their peers being different or having to ask for help is incredible. And they literally will not ask for help. They will not ask for their accommodations if they are going to be humiliated and embarrassed in front of the classroom. You have to give them these pieces of paper in their notebook, so for each class, so they can literally go up and show the teacher without having to say it out loud. This helps.
It helps dramatically. I actually have a student who I recently went over her accommodations, and she is in high school. She said every time she's asked to read aloud in class, she counts the number of bodies so that she can get to whatever she has to read, so she can practice reading it enough prior to be called on, so that she can read it in class and not sound like an idiot. And I said, so that's in the past. You should just be able to walk up. You can say pass. You can have a conversation with a teacher ahead of time. Just make it super clear that you're not going to read, and be done with it. And I've modified in one of my accommodations now, where when I talk about it, the teacher needs to have a way to call on students in the class without going seat by seat by seat, row by row by row. So one of the things that I was taught when I was in my teacher training was you get a bunch of popsicle sticks, you write the student's name on the popsicle stick, and you pull them out of one cup and you put them into the other. And then if you have a student in there that doesn't read because of dyslexia or whatever, you just don't have their name in there. And I also tell students, you can tell students up front, you can pass. You do not have to read aloud in front of your peers, period. So if I call on you and you don't want to read, just say pass.
And that's not a chicken out or a wimpy way of doing things. These kids have trouble with retrieval, and they have trouble with writing. Now, reading out loud. One thing though, if you really want to get detailed, is if you're going to be doing a group the next day where the kid has to speak out loud as to a topic in a paragraph that was read the night before, the teacher can give that kid, Susie, I'm going to be asking you this question tomorrow. Here's the passage I want you to read, or here's the passage I want you to answer questions about. And I'm going to give you that opportunity to practice, put it on a note card. And when I call on you tomorrow, you will be prepared.
Ready. Yeah. So we'll put this document up so that you've got a resource and you can think about, and literally you just need to grab your kid, go have a milkshake or ice cream or something, and sit down and talk about, how do we put this together in a way that works for you? What do you want it to look like? We've got both front and back. Let's prep it. Let's throw it in. And I say laminate. You could just put it on heavy cardstock. You can do whatever you need to do. I realize not everybody has a laminator in their house or wants to run to go try and find a laminator. But the idea being that you've got it on a page that your student can refer to. It's fast, it's easy, and it doesn't put them in an uncomfortable situation. Right. So if you go to our website, Explaining Dyslexia, you will now see a forms page on that website, and you can click on it, and we've put the WISC form, and we've put some of the other forms of things that we've talked about in other videos there, and you can grab those, take, morph, kill it, make your student have a great beginning of the school year.
And if you have any questions on this, just so you know, I did this every single year for my daughter, and I gave a copy of this to each teacher, and my daughter had it in her notebook. And that's not being a helicopter parent. That's being someone who understands their kids' learning challenges, and you want to reduce
Being a strong advocate.
Right. A strong advocate and reduce their stress in school.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll see if we get any hits on that.